Original post. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but I'm honestly at my breaking point. My whole life I've been told that family comes first, and I believed it. I built my world around loyalty, hard work, and the idea that if I kept pushing through, eventually my efforts would be recognized. Well, that belief just came crashing down, and I don't even know what to do with the mix of anger, sadness, and betrayal I'm feeling right now. For context, my family has owned an auto business for decades. It started as a small garage that my grandfather opened after coming back from the Army, and over the years it grew into a pretty respectable operation. By the time I was old enough to get involved, we had a full repair shop, a small used car lot, and even started branching into selling parts. It wasn't some giant corporation, but it was stable, profitable, and honestly something I was proud of. I practically grew up in that garage. Some of my earliest memories are holding a flashlight for my dad while he worked under a car, or tagging along when he picked up shipments of parts. By the time I was a teenager, I was already working. Weekends, learning everything I could, mechanical work, bookkeeping, customer service, even negotiating with suppliers. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. And for years, I busted my ass. I didn't complain when I worked late nights. I didn't whine when I missed out on vacations because something needed to get done. I built relationships with regular customers who still greet me by name when they see me. I learned how to balance the books better than our actual accountant. I was loyal. I was committed. Now let me tell you about my sister. She's 3 years younger than me, and let's just say she was never really into the whole work hard for the family legacy thing. She barely scraped by in college, and even then, she only chose a major because her friends picked it. When she did help out at the business, it was usually just her sitting at the counter scrolling through Instagram, rolling her eyes when a customer walked in, or leaving early because she had plans. But here's the kicker. My parents have always coddled her. Always. She's the baby of the family. She's sensitive. She needs more support. Meanwhile, I was expected to pull my weight no matter what. I never complained because I figured eventually they'd see the difference. Eventually, they'd recognize who was actually keeping the business running. Well, last month I found out the truth, and it broke me. One of our longtime employees let something slip, thinking I already knew. He mentioned that the business paperwork had been changed, and when I asked what he meant, he looked at me with this awkward expression. Long story short, my parents transferred the ownership of the entire business to my sister. Not partial, not shared, full control. I didn't believe it at first. I thought maybe he misunderstood. But when I looked into it myself, sure enough, my parents had quietly handed the company over to her. No discussion, no heads up, nothing. When I confronted them, I expected at least an apology or some kind of explanation that made sense. Instead, I got excuses that felt like a slap in the face. She's younger, she needs stability in life. You're strong enough to build something on your own. She's the only daughter, we want to make sure she's taken care of. I asked them, what about me? What about the years I've put into this business, the sacrifices I made? Do I not deserve at least a conversation before you strip me of everything I worked for? And their response? You'll be fine on your own. She can't handle life without us. I swear, I just stood there in shock. All this time I thought, we were building something together. I thought I was earning my place in the family legacy. But apparently, I was just the workhorse keeping it running until they handed the keys over to my spoiled, entitled sister, who doesn't know the first thing about running a business. And if that wasn't enough salt in the wound, my sister herself decided to rub it in. When she caught wind of my confrontation with my parents, she smirked and said, I'm the boss now. Don't like it? Leave. That was the breaking point for me. So I did what she said. I left. It wasn't an easy decision. Walking away from something I poured my soul into felt like ripping out a part of myself. But what other choice did I have? Stay and work under someone who thinks Instagram reels are more important than paying invoices. Stay and be the mule for parents who clearly never saw me as worthy of inheriting the business I helped keep alive? No, I won't do it. I packed up my things, walked out of that garage, and I haven't gone back since. Now I'm trying to figure out what comes next. Part of me wants to start my own shop. I know I have the skills, the contacts, and the reputation to make it work. But another part of me feels so drained, so hollow, that I don't even know where to begin. All I know is that I can't go crawling back, even if they begged me to. Not after this, and that brings me here. Am I wrong for walking away instead of helping them run it? Am I wrong for leaving the business to sink or swim under my sister's leadership? Because right now I feel like I've been thrown away by my own family. Update 1. Hey everyone, I didn't think I'd be back with an update this soon, but a lot has happened since my original post. Honestly, I'm still wrapping my head around how fast everything has unraveled, but I guess this is the sort of thing you can't make up. After I walked out, I spent a couple of weeks in this weird limbo. I'd gone from spending most of my waking hours at the garage to suddenly having nothing. It felt wrong, like I was skipping work or shirking responsibility, but I kept reminding myself, it isn't my responsibility anymore. They made sure of that. At first, I thought maybe I'd take a long break, figure out my next move. But the truth is, I can't sit still. I've been hustling my whole life. So after a lot of thinking, I decided to take a gamble. I rented out a small, run-down unit in an industrial strip and opened my own shop. Nothing flashy, nothing big, just me, some basic equipment, and a dream of proving to myself that I could build something from scratch. What happened next shocked me. Within days of hanging my sign, old customers started showing up. People I'd known for years were pulling into my lot saying, "We heard you left the family shop. Wherever you go, we go." I didn't even advertise. It was all word of mouth. Turns out loyalty isn't just about blood, it's about how you treat people. And then employees started calling me. A couple of the best mechanics from the family shop reached out, saying they were fed up with my sister's attitude. One of them literally said, "She treats us like garbage. She doesn't listen, she doesn't know what she's doing, and she thinks we're beneath her." I told them I couldn't afford to pay them much yet, but they said they'd rather work for me than stay in that toxic environment. That meant more to me than I can explain. Meanwhile, word about my sister's leadership was spreading like wildfire, and none of it was good. Apparently, the first thing she did after taking over was dip into the business account to buy herself a brand new luxury SUV. She told everyone it was for business image, but really, she just wanted to flex on Instagram. Then she started spending money on cosmetic renovations instead of fixing the equipment that actually mattered. She even hired one of her friends as a social media manager and paid her more than the senior mechanic who'd been with us for 15 years. And that was just the beginning. Customers started noticing corners being cut, oil changes taking twice as long, repairs not being done correctly, parts not arriving on time because the suppliers weren't being paid promptly. I even heard she told a longtime customer that if they didn't like her modern way of running things, they could go somewhere else. Well, they did, straight to me. Suppliers stopped giving her credit because she either missed payments or treated them like she was too important to deal with invoices. I know one supplier personally who told me, "If it weren't for the years of business we had with your dad, I'd have cut them off immediately." Even the goodwill built by my grandfather and father wasn't enough to cover for her arrogance. It didn't take long before the cracks turned into gaping holes. One night, I got a call from my mom. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. She started with small talk, but I knew where it was going. After a few minutes, she sighed and said, "The business isn't doing so well. Your sister is struggling. Maybe you could come back, just to help her get on track." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the audacity floored me. I said, "Mom, it's her business now. You made that decision. She wanted control. She can deal with the consequences." There was this pause, like she couldn't believe I wasn't rushing to save the day. Then she tried guilt-tripping me. "This is your family legacy. Don't let it die." I told her flat out, "You handed that legacy to her, not me. You don't get to burn the bridge and then beg me to walk back over the ashes." She got upset and said I was being cruel. I said, "No, I'm being honest. Cruel was pretending my work didn't matter." Then I hung up. A few days later, my sister herself called me, and when I say she begged, I mean it. She tried to dress it up like she was offering me an opportunity. "Hey, I was thinking, maybe you could consult for me, just like a side role. I'd still be in charge, obviously, but you could help keep things smooth. You know, family supporting family." I told her no. Flat, simple, no. She got angry immediately and snapped, "Fine, but when this business succeeds, don't. Come crawling back." Funny thing is, even as she was saying it, I could hear the panic in her voice. She knows she's sinking. Since then, the calls from my parents have become more frequent and more desperate. Every time, it's some variation of, "Please, just step in. Don't let your sister fail. Think of your father's hard work. Think of your grandfather's legacy." And every time, I repeat the same thing. "It's not my business anymore. You made that choice." Meanwhile, my little shop? It's thriving. Customers keep coming. Former employees keep asking if I have room for them. I'm booked out weeks in advance. I even had to bring in my old buddy from trade school just to keep up with demand. It feels surreal. For so long, I thought my life and future were tied to that family business. Now I realize, maybe this betrayal was the best thing that could have happened to me. It pushed me to finally step out of the shadow of their favoritism and build something that's truly mine. But still, part of me can't believe how fast they've managed to run the family legacy into the ground. A business that survived decades, multiple recessions, and even a fire once upon a time. Now circling the drain because my parents thought the baby deserved it more than the son who actually gave a damn. I won't lie. There's a part of me that feels vindicated watching it all crumble. But mostly, I just feel sad. Sad for what could have been. Sad for the employees who are still stuck under her. Sad that my parents are so blinded by favoritism that they can't admit they made a mistake. But one thing I don't feel? Responsibility. That's gone. And I don't ever want to carry it again. Update, too well, Reddit. Here we are. If you thought the first update was wild, buckle up. Things have gone from bad to catastrophic for my sister and my parents' decision, and I don't even have to lift a finger anymore. Their own arrogance did all the work. Last time I posted, my little shop was thriving while the family business was already showing serious cracks. Since then, the cracks have turned into a full-blown collapse, and I've been standing on the sidelines, watching in disbelief as everything they once valued burns to ash. The final nail in the coffin started with a decision that can only be described as catastrophic stupidity. My sister, in all her infinite wisdom, decided the best way to modernize the business was by taking out a massive loan to launch some ridiculous side project. Instead of fixing the crumbling operations, paying suppliers, or taking care of employees, she put hundreds of thousands into creating a luxury auto lifestyle brand. What did that mean? Oh, she bought 2 flashy sports cars for promotion, hired some influencer friends to do photo shoots with them, and even talked about opening a car-themed lounge cafe attached to the garage. Meanwhile, the lifts in the actual workshop were breaking down. Mechanics didn't have the right tools, and customers were waiting weeks for simple repairs. The employees who hadn't already left finally had enough. One by one, they quit. Some came straight to me, asking if I had space. I did. I hired who I could and told the others I'd recommend them to friends in the industry. It hurt to turn down good people, but I couldn't overload my small shop. Still, many told me they'd rather be unemployed than continue under my sister's leadership. That says it all. Customers weren't any better. At first, some stuck it out for the sake of loyalty to my parents. But after being overcharged, ignored, and handed sloppy work one too many times, they gave up. I had people literally coming into my shop saying, I gave them 3 chances, never again. And the thing is, once a customer leaves a service, business like this, they rarely ever come back. By this point, the family legacy was basically a corpse being propped up by loans and denial. Then came the moment I knew was inevitable. My parents called for a family meeting. They wanted to talk. I showed up, partly out of curiosity, partly because I wanted to hear what excuse they'd pull this time. We sat around the same dining table where so many family decisions were made over the years, and I could feel the tension before anyone said a word. My dad started with a sigh. The business is in trouble. Your sister bit off more than she can chew. We need your help. I leaned back and asked the obvious question. I thought the business was hers. That's what you told me when you signed it over. My mom jumped in. We made a mistake. We thought she could handle it, but clearly she can't. Please, just take over and fix it for the family. I can't even describe the satisfaction I felt in that moment. Not gloating, just this cold clarity that everything I'd said would happen was coming true. I looked them straight in the eyes and said, calm as ever, you chose her over me. You told me I'd be fine on my own, and guess what? I am. I've built my own success. I'm not sacrificing that to clean up her arrogance. That's when my sister exploded. She slammed her hands on the table and screamed, You stole my clients! You sabotaged me from the start! This is your fault! I didn't even raise my voice. I just said, Your clients left because of you. You treated them like trash and they walked. I didn't steal anyone. They followed me because I respect them. There's a difference, but you'll never understand it. The silence after that was deafening. Not long after that meeting, things went from bad to worse for them. The loans caught up. Suppliers refused to deliver parts without upfront payment. Customers had all but vanished, and the flashy luxury brand she tried to launch, it never even got off the ground. Just a massive pile of debt with nothing to show for it. Within months, the family business officially declared bankruptcy. Assets were sold off to pay creditors. The used cars on the lot? Gone. The building my grandfather had poured his life into? Auctioned. Even the tools in the garage, pieces of equipment I grew up learning on, were liquidated. I heard from an old friend that my sister even had to sell her precious luxury SUV just to cover personal expenses. The same car she bought to show off as the new face of the business. Gone. And my parents? They finally saw the reality of what they'd done. They didn't just lose a business. They lost the trust and respect of the son who had been there all along. They lost the loyalty of employees who had given decades of service. They lost the goodwill of customers who once swore by our family name, all because they wanted to protect the spoiled one. Meanwhile, my shop, it's on fire in the best possible way. Word spread fast that I was the one who kept the old family business alive for years. And now that I was on my own, people wanted to support me. I had to expand sooner than I thought. I rented out the unit next to mine and turned it into a second workspace. Then, not long after, I signed papers for a second branch in a neighboring town. Former employees who joined me couldn't stop saying how grateful they were to be respected and listened to. Customers kept telling me it feels like the old days again, like someone actually cares. That hit me hard because I realized I was the reason people trusted our family's name all those years. It wasn't my parents' favoritism. It wasn't my sister's fake smile. It was me showing up day after day, putting in the work. And you know what? It feels damn good to finally get the recognition I never got at home. I didn't need to sabotage them. I didn't need to fight dirty. My revenge came in the form of patience. They handed the throne to someone who didn't deserve it, and she burned it all down. And while they were drowning, I was already sailing my own ship to success. The last time I saw my parents, they looked smaller, defeated. My mom said quietly, "We should have given it to you. We're sorry." I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just nodded and said, "I begged for fairness once. You didn't care. I begged for respect, and you dismissed me. Now you're the ones begging. But I've moved on." They had no response. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. Read it. I don't know what the future holds, but right now, my business is thriving. I'm respected by my employees and customers, and I'm no longer chained to the weight of being the good son who carries everyone else. The legacy they destroyed, I'm building a better one on my own terms. And honestly, that's the best revenge I could have ever asked for. Final update. It's been a while since my last update, and I figured it's time to close the book on this whole saga. So many of you followed along from the beginning, when I was venting about my parents handing our family business to my sister, behind my back. I never imagined things would unravel the way they did. But here we are. By now, the business is gone. Completely. The garage that had been standing for decades, the one my grandfather built with his bare hands, the one I grew up in, was auctioned off months ago. The sign came down, the building was stripped. Even driving past it now feels strange, like looking at the skeleton of something that used to mean everything to me. My sister's so-called luxury brand never went anywhere. The loans crushed her, the employees abandoned ship, and the customers found new places to go. Most of them ended up with me. She's basically broke now. She sold the fancy SUV she bought, then sold off furniture, and last I heard, she's living back at my parents' house, sulking and blaming everyone. But herself and my parents? They're shells of themselves. The stress, the guilt, the financial fallout, it aged them years and months. And in the middle of all of it, they made one last attempt to rope me back in. It happened about 2 months ago. They showed up at my shop unannounced. I was in the middle of helping a customer when I saw them standing awkwardly by the counter. I told my assistant I'd be a minute and stepped outside with them. My mom started crying almost instantly. "Please," she said, "please take care of your sister. She has nothing now. She's lost everything." My dad chimed in, his voice low and shaky. "We should have listened to you. We should have given you the business. But it's gone now, and she's not going to make it without you." For a second, I just stood there. I looked at the two people who had raised me, who had preached family loyalty my whole life, and I realized something. I didn't feel anger anymore. Not the sharp, burning kind I'd carried for months. Just nothing. I took a breath and said calmly, "I begged for fairness, and you ignored me. I begged for respect, and you dismissed me. Now you're the ones begging, but I've moved on." She made her bed. Let her lie in it. The words hung in the air like a hammer strike. My mom cried harder. My dad just looked at the ground. For once, neither of them had anything to say. No guilt trips, no excuses, no lectures, just silence. And in that silence, I think they finally understood. They didn't just lose the business, they lost me. They left without another word. I watched them walk to their car, hunched and defeated, and I knew that was the last time they'd ever ask me for help. It was strange. For years, I'd craved their recognition, their validation, their approval. Now, I didn't need it anymore. If they cried that night, I'll never know. If they sat around blaming each other or blaming me or finally realizing they'd destroyed their own legacy, I'll never know. And honestly, I don't care to. While their world crumbled, mine only kept growing. My shop has become more successful than I ever dreamed. We expanded to a second branch a few towns over, and I've got plans for a third. My employees are loyal, hardworking, and happy to be here. They tell me all the time that they've never felt this respected in a workplace before. That means more to me than any profit margin. Customers, too. They constantly thank me for being honest, for listening, for caring. Some of them even followed me from when I was a teenager working in my dad's garage. They say things like, "Feels like the old days again," and I realize I was the old days. I was the reason people trusted our family's name. Not my parents, not my sister, me. On a personal note, life feels lighter now. Without the weight of family drama, I've been able to focus on myself. I started dating again, and I'm in a relationship with someone who actually supports me, who doesn't take me for granted. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm building something stable. Not just in business, but in life. Do I hate my parents? My sister? No. That fire burned out a while ago. Hatred takes energy, and I don't have the time or desire to waste mine on them. But do I care about them anymore? Also no. And that's the real difference. I used to break my back for their approval. I used to live for the day when they'd look at me and say, "We're proud of you." But now I know that kind of loyalty, that kind of one-sided devotion, is worthless. Loyalty has to be mutual. Respect has to be earned on both sides. If people can betray you once, without remorse, without hesitation, they'll do it again. My parents showed me exactly where I stood in their eyes, and my sister proved who she really was the moment she had power. The truth is, the family business died the moment they signed it over to her. The bankruptcy, the collapse, that was just the funeral. And me? I'm not mourning anymore. I'm moving forward. So that's it, Reddit. That's the end of the story. I started this whole thing broken, betrayed, and furious. Now, I'm standing tall, running a thriving business, surrounded by people who respect me, finally living without the weight of trying to please people who never saw my worth. They begged me one last time, and my answer shattered their last hope. But honestly, my real revenge wasn't in the words I said, it's in the life I'm living now, and that's more than enough.